YouTube? It's boardzy, and it is time for everybody's favorite, a dual review. It's going to be a review of the Gamesense Radar mousepad and the Gamesense clutch keyboard. It's going to be a very shocking video. These products are also on a 15% sale right now, so it does make them pretty good considering the price, especially the keyboard 65% hot swap with a knob. It's around $80, and the Radar is a 500 by 500 control pad for around $30. And I've reviewed the Radar in the past, but yeah, this is the new iteration. One thing that's definitely changed is the stitching. This is really incredible stitching. I don't know what to say. It's super thin. It's not noticeably raised really at all on your forearm or wrist, so it's just good in all aspects. You can see the stitching is very close to the new stitching on the Lethal Gaming Gear Pro pads. Review on those coming soon. But yeah, the stitching on these is probably the best out of any mousepad I have tried, except from Artisan, of course. Moving past the stitching, I'm going to talk about the base. So this is the 3mm thick version, and you know how companies advertise non-slip bases. This should be advertised as a slip base. It is just really, I don't know, it just does not stick well to my desk. When I do plant my forearm on the pad, though, and I'm actually like using it in game, I have no issues with it slipping around, but just like when you're demonstrating it, it is really not stuck well to my desk. But it's just the same natural rubber base that a lot of companies use. It's just the mousepad itself isn't really heavy, and it's not getting a good grip of the desk is what I would guess. But at the end of the day, it does not really affect performance. The surface of this mousepad is just going to feel like a pretty familiar controlled cloth surface to a lot of people. The static friction, what it takes to get the mouse moving, is not extremely high compared to some more muddy feeling cloth pads, but there's definitely a bit of resistance when you initially make a motion. I would say compared to pads like the Lethal Gaming Gear Saturn and Artisan Zero, the static friction is going to be higher. I would say this is on par with something like the Xtrfy GP4. So definitely not a mud pad, but if high static friction is a feature that you look for, whether it be for increased stability or whatever reason, this is a pad that offers that while not being a totally slow glide when the mouse is in motion. The dynamic friction falls somewhere in the middle, and I honestly like the speed of this mousepad. It's very controlled, so if you have a problem with overshooting or shakiness, this is a pad that's going to feel very safe to use really across all sorts of different games and aiming styles. I would say it is on the slower end, but it was by no means too slow for Fortnite, especially when I was using lighter mice. Anything 60 grams or under felt really good on this pad because it was controlled, but aiming still felt fast. And I don't know, it just was a solid mousepad to use. You guys know 500 by 500 is my personal favorite size, and I think something this compares to is speed-wise the GSR SE, but with a much smoother, more standard feeling texture, and of course the larger size. So I would say this is a better buy than the new GSR SE Rouge. It also has the nice stitching versus the no stitching on the GSR SE. So the Radar is all around a solid cloth pad that I've been using. I just like basically everything about it, even the design. The base, I think it would be better on the 4mm version, but like I said, it does look pretty bad on the 3mm one. But when I'm actually aiming, I have no problems with the base moving around. So I would really say that this new version does get the seal of approval. It's priced at $35 for the black ones. Like I said, 15% cheaper with the discount, and that is a good price for a pad of this quality and performance level. So I don't really have a problem recommending it to people who are looking for a slower cloth pad. I can't do a mousepad review without a lighter test though, and this is not a very firm pad. It does have a bit of squish to it, but since it's 3mm, there is just less room for the mouse to sink in, so you can get some more control when you press your mouse in, but it's not going to feel muddy or as controlled as the 4mm thick version of the Radar would. In terms of using glass skates or sapphires on this pad, I don't really recommend it. I do think it feels a bit too dense and controlled. Like the friction is just super high, especially with the Lethal Gaming glass skates. With these sapphire dots, they are a bit faster, but it's still a very controlled experience, and I just think textured pads are better for glass skates than cloth pads like this. And that's all I have to say about the Radar. This updated version will keep the seal of approval. I'm happy to see the changes they've made while still keeping the nice surface and the good humidity resistance. It's been very humid, but I've had no problems with the texture really slowing down or being inconsistent. But now I'm going to review the clutch keyboard. As you can see, the clutch is a 65% keyboard and it has a knob, so that is like the most meta keyboard layout you can really have. By default, it comes with Gateron yellows, but it is hot swap, so you can put in whatever switches you want. Obviously nothing optical, and this isn't generally the type of keyboard I use. I main the Wooting 60HE, which has analog optical switches, while this just has standard mechanical switches. And while I definitely do not prefer something like this, it was definitely not impossible to use really in any game, even Fortnite, where a game I believe keyboards do matter a lot. The specs on these switches are nothing crazy for gaming. It's a 2mm actuation point, and I think 50 grams of actuation force. But again, it was totally usable. And since it's hot swap, you could obviously put in switches that have a lower actuation point, lighter springs to make it better for gaming. But the out-of-the-box experience, even for $95, which is what this retails for, I would say is pretty good. But for $80, I would say this is a really good deal, especially if you're not looking to go and spend $200 on a keyboard like the Wooting 2HE or the Apex Pro Mini. The sound is really nothing special. It's nothing bad either. There is a bit of rattle on the stabilizers and the spacebar. It's honestly not bad. I'm not like a custom keyboard snob. I don't think these stabilizers are terrible. I think the keyboard does sound a bit clacky. There is some foam in it. I don't know how much it is doing exactly. But if you're buying a keyboard for gaming, you probably don't care all too much about that. But you can obviously go into this keyboard and swap out the stabilizers, probably the plate. I know by default it uses an aluminum plate, which honestly makes like all linear switches feel the same. So the typing experience is not bad. The gaming experience was not bad either. I think that's really how I describe this keyboard. It's not bad, but it's not the best keyboard I've used, not something I'm probably going to really come back to. You do get two sets of keycaps. You get a set of pudding keycaps and just this set that they claim is double shot PBT. These are honestly the smoothest PBT keycaps I've ever used. I thought they were ABS until I checked the website, but that does not change the fact that they were PBT, I guess, and they are also keycaps. That's going to be about all for my review of the clutch. I think that Gamesense definitely has the layout down with the knob and the arrow keys. One thing is I feel like they could make the knob a bit more sensitive, especially pressing it down. It takes a lot of force to press this thing down. It's kind of like it's like a fidget toy. It's like God, this is literally like a fidget cube. Who remembers those? But that's about all for my review of the keyboard. I would like to see them make a gaming focused board with optical switches and the same layout. That could be a pretty sick variation. But there is definitely nothing wrong with this board for the budget price point. And I do think it is a pretty good value out of the box. And the Radar, like I mentioned before, is a sick mouse pad. So that's going to be all. No seal of approval for the keyboard, but make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Any questions in the comments, and peace.